Start Worm, trip of a lifetime. Let's fucking go. Does social media have you wanting to live someone else's life, or even worse, be someone else? If so, I have just what you need. Head over to betterhelp.com and type in promo code the most unsuccessful podcast in the history of the universe to get 20% off your first month of therapy from our trained licensed professionals to help you cope with your shitty ass fucking life. I'm either very happy to announce what you just heard with Stern Worm doing his very first paid promotional read, or that's my impression of an ad that I just heard Rogan do the other day. Joe Rogan either had a mental revelation and now believes that therapy is the solution to social media envy, or he should be fucking ashamed of himself for reading that bullshit. And all the podcasters sound so fucking fake when they do their ad reads. I have no problem with LeBron James advertising for Sprite in a commercial, even if he doesn't drink it in real life. But content creators should never advertise anything that contradicts their message. And my problem isn't that they're quote unquote sellouts. I don't call people sellouts. This is America. Capitalize and get that money. Otherwise, you'll be stuck selling your soul to some corporation for $10 an hour. But I think when you're promoting a specific message through your content, in the long run, it's more valuable to stay consistent with what you preach, opposed to contradicting your message to maximize profit immediately. And if that's true for anybody, it's especially true for Rogan, because he doesn't need the money from one specific advertisement. In my opinion, the cost of Rogan contradicting his message outweighs the money that he gains by doing BetterHelp advertisements. Like, I don't know why he does reads for them. And then the other day, I was in Starbucks for work picking up a delivery, and I heard the one employee say, and this is an exact quote, "This is what sucks. When you're really good at things, they ask you to do a lot." Luckily, I've never ran into that problem in life. My parents asked me to FaceTime with them once a week and visit them once every few months, but other than that, I'm at a point where nobody asks me for anything anymore. I think society kind of gave up on me. I do a March Madness pool every year, costs a few $100s. I always pay before like the Final Four starts, but I never pay at the beginning of the tournament, and that's technically when the money's due. So the guy who runs the pool, he sends me an email asking me for the entry fee every year, but those are automated emails, so they don't really count as someone asking me to do something. And then last week during Kill Tony, when we were at the bar across the street, there was some comedian who was wearing a big ass fucking sombrero in a crowded bar. I watched that dude for like 2 seconds and I saw a sombrero graze like 5 people in the head. I despise the type of person who starts shit because like you stepped on his shoes in a crowded bar, but like my hero is the person who gets hit in the face by that guy's sombrero and just unloads haymakers on him. Teach him a fucking lesson to make an attempt to be considerate of other people. I hate inconsiderate people, I hate rude people, I hate fake people, and I hate corny people in no particular order. And then unrelated to that, I think loaves of bread are absolutely fucking disgusting. Like a loaf of white bread. I can't believe adults actually eat that shit. Grown-ups grab 2 pieces of white bread, they throw a few pieces of ham on there, grab a couple Kraft singles, spread on some mayonnaise, and then they sit down and eat that shit like a fucking 5-year-old. I'm 39 years old right now, excluding toast. It's definitely been like at least over 30 years since the last time I've eaten that type of bread. But I say this shit because I was doing a delivery the other day for work, and I was in the bread aisle looking for like what the customer ordered, and the old guy next to me goes, "Too many choices." I just want to be like, yeah, it all just looks so good. I wish I could walk around with like a do not disturb sign when I'm out in public. And like the one thing I've learned in life is hot girls never do that. If you're standing next to a hot girl in the supermarket, she will never turn to you and say some dumbass shit. It's almost always some old guy on the other end of that exchange. And then that connects to a story of another old guy I once saw in Randall's. That's where like all the grocery orders are that I get for work. But I was once in Randall's and my customer ordered prepackaged deli meats. Buying deli meat prepackaged has never even been a thought in my mind. I didn't even know that was an option. I could imagine buying deli meat and not getting it fresh sliced. But so when I was shopping for my customer, I went to the refrigerator that stores the prepackaged deli meat, and some old guy next to me was casually picking up a prepackaged Oscar Mayer slab of bologna. It wasn't sliced. It was just one thick slab of bologna. It was foul on all counts. It's prepackaged deli meat. It's Oscar Mayer brand. It's bologna, and it's not even sliced. If my life was on the line, I honestly still couldn't finish that shit because I'd be throwing up once I ate a few bites. The smell of it alone would get me. I get nauseous just thinking about it. I can't believe anybody would decide to purchase that shit. And I can't believe it sells enough that it even gets stocked in grocery stores. In 2024, there's a lot of shit I can't believe though. But imagine what your aura radiates when that's what you're feeding off of. Last episode I was talking about what causes cognitive diseases. I bet consistently eating slabs of prepackaged Oscar Mayer bologna doesn't help. If that guy was my grandpa and my mom told me he was sick, I wouldn't even have to hear what he was sick with. I'd say the same thing. It's probably because of that fucking shit that he eats. Grandpa's dealing with cognitive decline. It's probably because of that fucking shit that he eats. Grandpa's dealing with heart disease. It's probably because of that fucking shit that he eats. Grandpa came down with cancer. It's probably because of that fucking shit that he eats. And then moving on, I've gotten totally in my head about Gianna Dior. I put way too much pressure on myself internally as her being the perfect girl for Mission Impossible of opening up Stern Worm. I'm obviously not looking for the one, but anytime in the past that there's been a specific girl that I locked in on as the one who I'm going to try to break through with, I get totally in my head about her, and I have trouble even jerking off thinking about her because it just makes me feel pressure. The second I lock into a specific girl, the thought of her totally consumes me by pressure, and if this goes as far as to reach Gianna, I definitely wouldn't want to unload that pressure on her. Plus once I lock into a specific girl, my sexual excitement for her becomes stale because I start liking her, and at that point I have trouble seeing her in a sexual light. Once I've built up a specific girl, my head is my special one that I'm trying to break through with. Instead of fantasizing about fucking her, I fantasize about cuddling with her. It's so fucking gay. And all the chicks that I end up having it in my head that is the one that I'm gonna try to break through with, they're all mad cool. Usually like them for a reason. So I always start to actually like them, and when I'm in that mode, it's I can't even see her sexually until internally I detach from her, which is crazy with Gianna because she's a porn chick, and that just highlights how arbitrary my emotions are if I'm attached to some girl that I've never even fucking met or talked to in my life. But so I feel the way to alleviate all that pressure and to get Gianna out of my head is by not being all in on that situation. This is all hypothetical if I get to Rogan, but if I get to Rogan, then I'm not committed to first and foremost trying to make that happen with Gianna. And if I actually do connect with her, I'm definitely not going to try to convince her to fuck with me. That's the one thing I'll never do again. But if I get to Rogan and I surface myself and she instantly hears about this and is all about me, then for sure I'm down. But if I surface my existence and my reality changes and hot girls know who I am and want to hook up with me, then I feel my best option is just whatever spontaneously presents itself. I have a much better chance of getting my dick hard for a girl that just appears in my universe as a sex alien, a girl that's kind of dehumanized to me, opposed to some girl that I built up in my head as being my special one and the one that where I've been building up pressure. But I need to feel I'm hooking up with a dirty slut, not the love of my life. That's what always is the problem with a girl that I like and that I'm trying to break through with. I always feel she's the love of my life, and when I get that, I just don't get turned on when I'm in that mode, but just feeling I'm with a dirty slut who just fucking wants dick. That's what I need for my excitement to be able to supersede the pressure, in my opinion at least. But overall, I'm open to any avenue, whether it's a girl I stumble upon spontaneously, Gianna Dior, another porn chick, or just a girl from my past that hops in my DMs. As long as I think she's hot, I'm down for any girl that likes me and is into the situation. And I hate even talking about girls like this all the time I've been doing on my podcast, because the more I do, the more it makes me feel I'm just trying to suppress my gayness, which I might be doing. The more I put it out there that I'm straight and want to film porn with girls, the more it makes me feel I'm trying to overcompensate, and it just builds up the pressure on hooking up with the girl, and it swings the pendulum of arousal for me. I think sexuality is a lot more fluid than we make make it out to be. And there's many factors that swing the pendulum of arousal. And the straighter of a lifestyle you live, the more taboo and arousing it's gonna make the homoerotic fantasy. It's kind of like by talking about how much you love pussy, it almost makes dick more of a turn on. And here's a perfect example that goes along with that school of thought. And I randomly just stumbled upon this week by coincidence, so I slid it in here. And I was going down like a hip-hop rabbit hole. Like, I wasn't like looking at videos talking about people's sexuality, but what I watched was a short Odd Future documentary, and they were talking about how Tyler the Creator caught a lot of backlash for making homophobic remarks, and then it went on to say that he eventually came out as bisexual. You have to imagine when someone projects hatred for homosexuality, it only makes the thought of it naughtier and more arousing. And this is why I think praying the gay way is counterintuitive. If you're struggling internally, praying the gay way is only gonna feed the beast and make that person want it even more. If anything, I think you're supposed to do the opposite and embrace it, and that's why I did what I did. I hooked up with guys on a couple of different occasions and walked away from it feeling straighter than I did going into it. And going through with it and wearing it on my sleeve undoubtedly takes away some of the allure from the homoerotic fantasy. When you bring it out of the darkness and shine a light on it, it just makes it less exciting. And it's empowering when you admit to yourself and to others that you're not tied for being the straightest man in the history of the universe. At the end of the day, though, I'm trying to break through with girls, but if I surface my existence, then I'm getting through this one way or another. And if I'm totally consumed by pressure when I'm trying to hook up with girls, then I'll reluctantly start hooking up with guys, whether it's just to relax myself sexually or because I have to admit to myself that that's what my truth is. And then disconnected to that, but slightly related, I was listening to an old Rogan podcast with Charlemagne, and I forget which one made the comment, but one of them said, "I heard Shaq has a small dick." And I instantly thought exactly what the other one responded. They said, "I heard it's not that he has a small dick, it's a normal sized dick, but it's just small for Shaq because of how big he is." And that's exactly what I was saying on the fake tits episode. Tits for a girl and a dick for a man, it's not that it has to be huge, but it's so important for it to just visually look proportionate to the person's body, because otherwise the person just feels and looks unattractive when they're taking their clothes off. And when I'm talking about dick for a man being like proportionate to his body, I'm primarily referring to when it's soft, because like I think most dicks probably look fine once they're hard, but visually it just looks terrible when it's really small when it's soft. I know from looking in the mirror. And I'm embarrassed when like my dick is shriveled up. If Shaq's dick shrivels up to some degree, it must be absolutely demoralizing for him because of like how huge he is. Like Shaq with the shriveled up dick probably looks so much worse than me with the shriveled up dick, and I think I look terrible with the shriveled up dick. But maybe they're all wrong and Shaq just fucking has a pipe in his pants. Who knows? And then in response to a recent podcast episode that I put out, I got an email from my mom talking about how size doesn't matter, referring to like penis size. And then she listed all the traits that women look for in men, like honesty, a good sense of humor, and being nice, among a host of other traits. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. You're getting an up-close view of the most ridiculous existence in the history of the universe. A 40-year-old virgin who records a podcast just to break down sexual philosophy to his mom. So to say that email aggravated me would possibly be the biggest understatement in the history of the universe. And then like right after I read it, I accepted a decent delivery like for work, and I get in my car and my brakes are like doing that thing that they've been doing where it feels and sounds like my brakes are stuck in water. Plus I hear this vicious creak that my car suspension's been making. I pulled out of my parking lot just thinking to myself, I fucking hate this life that I'm trapped in. It was a pretty good delivery that I accepted, but the traffic had me fed up. I'm so fucking sick of the congestion on the roads. It's so fucking ridiculous. And then after that delivery, I got a good paying delivery from Sonic, which would have presumably brought me back home. Sonic has like drive-through screens and you gotta buzz it to speak to an employee. I do that. I give the guy the name on the delivery and he tells me it'll be ready in like 3 to 4 minutes just to come to the side door. I wait 4 minutes. I go in and instantly right as I open the door, before I even open the door, like I just cracked the door open and some lady starts barking at me. It's gonna be at least 10 minutes before I start working on any Uber DoorDash orders. blah, 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 blah. I was like, the guy told me to be ready in 3 to 4 minutes. And that guy was like standing right there apparently. And he was looking at me with like his soul defeated. And he was like, yeah, I'm sorry about that. He's probably the one that this bitch had been back there unleashing her misery on all day. But so I stormed out of there. And when I got outside, I kicked over a metal garbage can. It was loud as fuck when it hit the ground. And I simultaneously yelled, fuck this place. Basically, I made sure to at least make a scene on my way out and get some type of fulfillment from the situation. And like, that's the one thing I am good at in life. Like earlier in the podcast, I say I'm not good at anything, so nobody ever asked me to do anything. But the one thing I've always been good at is making a scene. The one thing I'm good at in life, nobody really asked me to do because nobody wants to watch me make a scene. And I bet most people would see that shit and just assume that I was acting childish because my order wasn't ready. But that wasn't why I was all hyped. Yeah, like the one guy gave me wrong information and I wasted my time because of it. But misunderstandings happen. I see there's only 2 people back there and they're busy as fuck. What made me mad though was how that fucking bitch was talking to me. I can't fucking deal with people and their shitty ass attitudes anymore. The jobs that I gravitate to are always straight lines of work, but unfortunately the downside is I'm always working roles where everyone's allowed to step on you and people love taking their fucking miserable lives out on me specifically. Like, yeah, I get it. You don't want to be there working at an understaffed Sonic. Trust me, I don't want to be there doing that fucking delivery either. So the Sonic detour put me exponentially into a worse mood than I was already in, and it cost me about 10 minutes. I want to make up for lost time, so I was desperate for like any decent delivery. I accepted another delivery from a Chinese restaurant that was like a second away from where I was. I go in, but of course the order wasn't ready. I was gonna leave since it cost me like no time, and I didn't want to fucking waste more time in there. But the employee told me it was gonna be up very shortly, so I decided to just wait. And then 5 minutes passed by, and I see him bringing out like a huge tray of food to a table that was dining in. So at that point, I was like, fuck this shit, yo. I'm not waiting here any longer. So I canceled delivery, and I just left another place empty-handed again. And then I just ended up going straight home. That whole process took like an hour, 10 minutes, and I made $16 off of it, which after deductions is only equal to like $10. And then mix in the fact that I'm sick of wasting my life away sitting at the longest fucking traffic lights in the history of the universe. I'm sick of driving on the shittiest paved roads in the history of the universe. I'm sick of being stressed out trying to make left turns because there's a zillion fucking cars coming from both directions. I'm sick of my shitty ass fucking car making noises. I'm sick of hearing people slam their fucking horn over bullshit. I'm sick of people living in gated communities not leaving information with the gate code. I'm sick of entertaining the same pointless conversations with passengers, even though I rarely accept rideshare rides anymore because I can't deal with the conversations. I'm sick of the summer months having my phone overheating and shutting off when I'm in the middle of a delivery. I'm sick of fucking being trapped driving in the rain. I'm just so fucking sick of all the bullshit. I can't deal with it anymore. And someone might say, this is the job you chose, which is true, but as sick as I am of all this bullshit, I was exponentially sicker of working real jobs. And my problem isn't as much doing real work per se. It's existing in the work environment that I was so sick of. Being there is more work than doing the actual job itself. When I was serving tables at the beginning of a shift, I was once talking to a bartender and she told me she had a headache. And I was like, I have a headache every time I walk into the building. I could start to feel it coming when I'm in my apartment and have to start mentally preparing to go to work. It's created by the pressure I feel of knowing I have to go to my work environment. When you have to put on, it's exhausting. Faking it drains your energy, or at least it does mine. I was so fucking sick of it. And now that I'm away from it, I'm so over it and I don't ever want to go back to it. Once when I was walking to kill Tony, I passed a restaurant near my apartment and it has like an outside area and the whole area was taken up by like some type of work party. I know because they were all wearing name tags. I strive to live a life where I never have to fucking wear a name tag ever again. They weren't at work, but it just radiated like a work environment. And like that's supposed to be like the fun night out that like the managers and like the business owners plan for like the fucking employees to let loose and get rid of some of the stress from work. But like to me, like that environment is just as stressful as work. Like you see all these people there like shaking hands with the faking it smile. Oh, I see your name is Bill. My name is Ted. It's nice to meet you. I just like pitied them when I was walking past the restaurant. Like I don't give a fuck if it's free food and free drinks for the night. Like I wouldn't want to be there if I was them. Luckily right now I'm not trapped in a job where I gotta do that type of nonsense. As much as I complain about the road, like I'd much rather deal with that bullshit. And like as much as I complain about the road, this still is my dream job. You know what I mean? Like, if I can't surface myself through entertainment and I gotta work shitty ass jobs my whole life, if I could just do this my whole life, then this is straight as fuck. If I knew I was gonna be able to make a livable wage just serving food when I was younger, I would have had a lot more optimistic outlook on life. And going along with the theme of being sick of everything, when I go places to pick up food for work, it's absolutely fucking unbelievable how often there's no employee behind the register. I'm so fucking sick of standing at the register for an extended period with nobody there to greet me. I haven't worked the register in like 20 years, but throughout my life, I've worked like a zillion register jobs, and the one non-negotiable universal rule from every manager was when you're responsible for the register, you never walk away from it unless you're being relieved. And I'm talking about specifically like if you're working someplace where you're in charge of the main register, responsible for greeting customers when they walk in. That was like all to preface when I was at CVS the other day, and like CVS is the one place where like I don't expect somebody to always be standing behind the register, but I do expect an employee to be somewhere visible in the front when I walk in. Not only was there nobody at the register, but there was no employee anywhere in sight for like an extended period. So after like what felt like an eternity, I was getting frustrated, so I started going, hello, is anyone here? And right like as I started doing that, I saw an employee who was already making his way up front, and you could tell he wasn't feeling what I was doing. He responded with the kind of disgruntled tone, like I was in the back taking care of something, I'm the only one here. He was honestly like more polite than I would have been if I was him in that situation. I felt like a piece of shit for it seeming like I was giving him an attitude. In no way was my displeasure directed at him. I'm just so fucking sick of our way of life. Everything revolves around bullshit because everybody's fucking controlled by money. But not for 1 second did I think that employee was in the back slacking off. I know how this shit goes. He's probably the only one there. He probably has like 10 things he's got to catch up on while still being in charge of the register, and probably the whole front of the store he probably is also in charge of. And after he responded to me, like I apologized to him, like I'm sorry if I came off rude, I'm just so sick of every place being understaffed. And then like a friendly back and forth started, but his response was something that triggers me. In reference to being understaffed, he hit the problem is everybody just wants to be lazy. I'm so fucking sick of hearing that shit, and I think it's such a peasant ass mentality to be working a retail job and point to people being lazy as to why your store is understaffed. I personally don't think that CVS is understaffed because everybody wants to be lazy, and I just hate that rhetoric altogether because like who the fuck doesn't want to be lazy? I'm the laziest sack of shit in the history of the universe, and I've still worked full work weeks for the past 20 years. Not necessarily 40 hours a week though. I feel like almost everyone I've ever known though does put in 40-hour work weeks. I don't know how hard they work when they're there, but almost everyone I know puts in hours, and everywhere I turn, everybody's always working. There's a zillion cars on the fucking road during rush hour because everybody's trying to get to work. Show me where all these lazy people are that are unwilling to work, and like I know where they are. They're living in Austin, Texas in their cars doing open mics every night. But when I see every place so understaffed, not for 1 second do I think it's a reflection of people being lazy. What I see is 20 CVS's and 20 Walgreens within a 15 fucking mile radius, with new Targets and Walmarts constantly popping up everywhere. What I see is an abundance of commercial businesses creating exponentially more jobs that need to be filled, undesirable jobs that arguably don't pay livable wages. But even if all the individual store locations are understaffed, these companies as a whole probably hire more employees than ever and have more yearly clocked hours than ever. We're just surrounded by too much commerce. The amount of commercial real estate that exists now compared to 30 years ago is absolutely shocking. It did not look like this when I was a kid. If you visually saw a comparison of America in 1995 versus 2025, the difference must be unbelievable. And it's good when you see a lot of residential units popping up, but you don't want to see so much commercial real estate popping up. And like, why is it like this? Like, I don't know, but my guess is that it's probably extremely profitable for whoever's funding the construction. And I think that's the driving force behind everything. I think whoever owns the real estate is who's really making the money, because I don't think it's CVS. There's a CVS on every street corner and they're all always empty. It's not like every time CVS opens up a new location, it becomes a cash cow. I feel like a lot of these places are operating close to the margins without much foundation. And that's another reason that these places are all understaffed. When you have so much commerce, each individual location is bringing in less revenue and they're forced to minimize the labor. But overall, the problem that I see is an abundance of commerce. Not everybody just wanting to be lazy. I'm so fucking sick of hearing that shit. And I had noticed that the theme of the episode kind of turned into a lot of the bullshit that I'm sick of. So I figured there's one last thing that I'm sick of that I've been meaning to talk about that. Slide in here real quick. I'm sick of people trying to jam voting down my fucking throat. Last episode I was saying how you're not really voting, like excluding primaries, you're not even picking a candidate. You're basically just voting for who your party tells you to vote for. And that sentiment was validated ever since Biden dropped out of the race. So now instead of voting Biden, everybody votes Kamala Harris. How is that voting? And this shit is not set up for a presidential candidate to save the day and fix America's problems. If the candidate has gotten that far, then they've proven that they're willing to play along. These political parties aren't going to surface a presidential candidate with like revolutionary against the grain ideas. And in my opinion, career politicians are the root of the problem. They have to do what's best for their job, not what's best for America. I don't blame them. I would do the same thing if I was in their shoes. How could they do anything for America if they lose their job? Career politicians become puppets of their party and are completely controlled by whoever is providing their campaign funding, which is like all obviously like known facts. But what like also bothers me about career politicians is they've never really been out there in the real world. Most career politicians usually had their mind made up to pursue politics at a young age. If they ever worked a real job, it's just to show that they're like a man of the people or like a woman of the people. But I just think that because of how far removed career politicians are from reality, that they're just out of touch. But like now, with that said, as bad as it is to have a political leader who's never experienced navigating life in the real world, it's even worse to have a president who's never been a real fucking person like RFK. I know nothing about RFK, but I'm sick of everyone swearing that that's our fucking savior. Anybody with the last name Kennedy is not the answer. RFK has lived the life of a celebrity since he's been consciously aware, and his ultimate driving force is probably trying to stamp his name in the family legacy. He probably needs mushrooms not to become president of the fucking United States. Rogan's always pointing out how RFK has great standpoints on everything. I don't fucking care what his views are on abortion, gay marriage, and transgender athletes. And he might have a great understanding of politics at a macro level, but he's so far removed that he can't truly get it at a micro level. For example, like I bet when RFK sees all the emerging commerce, he thinks it's a great thing. He probably sees new Walmarts and Chick-fil-A's opening up, and he probably thinks it's creating new jobs. And unfortunately, it is creating jobs. I want to vote for a president who recognizes the overall goal isn't to create jobs. It's to increase production while reducing labor. What politicians see as creating jobs, I see as enslaving the population. Having an excessive amount of retail and restaurants open every day is only going to keep everyone working unless you could operate the businesses with minimal labor, which is what the goal should be, and that's what people can't seem to comprehend. But ultimately, I'm just sick of everyone swearing by RFK, someone who all he knows is a life of fame in politics. And I'm sick of the sheep saying you can't complain if you don't vote. I think it's the very opposite. I think every time someone votes Democratic or Republican, it's just a vote saying I'm fine with the status quo. Like until there's a real third party movement by somebody that isn't named Kennedy, I'm not voting. But it's crazy. There's become two words I'm absolutely fucking sick of, and they both become the biggest trigger phrases for me. Voting and education. Stern Worm, trip of a lifetime. Let's fucking go.